The nightmare of buying a house in Ireland may become even harder. The housing market is in a state of flux. It's impacting people from across the globe. There's soaring prices, market dynamics are shifting in terms of ownership, rents are skyrocketing, developments are being rejected, governments are changing regulations all the time, there's higher interest rates, the states are pumping billions into the market, and demand is outstripping supply. In this video, we explore all the key trends that are reshaping the market, who the winners and losers are, and how you can best prepare. Do like and share if you get value from these videos, because it helps me to keep motivated to make more of them. It's not all doom and gloom. Some people have done very well from the housing market. If you're one of the 1 million homeowners who own their home in Ireland mortgage free, there is no crisis for you. But if you are one of the many people between 20 and 40 dreaming of owning your own home, or just simply curious about what factors are going to shape the property market into the future and your chances of buying a home in the future, you should keep watching this video. Let's start with the challenges young people face when it comes to buying a home. I'm not going to start pitting one generation against the next or who had it harder. Personally, I believe we live in an amazing time, but buying a home is a hard task, and it is getting harder, and it may even get even harder for these 10 reasons. Number one, while the number of high-paying jobs have increased, rising property prices and realistically stagnant wages have created a very daunting task for many to enter into the market. Number two, stricter lending rules have made it harder for many to borrow mortgages. While more mortgages are being approved, it is getting harder and harder to draw down those mortgages, particularly in a timely manner. Number three, the population has increased, and this has increased the demand for housing. Number four, the increased demand for units due to smaller family sizes. Population has increased, but the number of people living in the home has fallen. This has led to a compounding effect, meaning even greater number of homes are needed. I'm going to caveat this with some recent reports have come out of the US that the family size has actually increased, or the family size within a home has increased, but this is mainly due to adult kids living at home with their parents. And I think in Ireland at the moment we have nearly 500,000 adult kids living at home with their parents because they can't, one, afford to move out and buy a home, or afford or find a place to rent. Number five, government rental caps. Rental caps only benefit a small few individuals and lead to huge rental inflation and reduces the supply, making it more expensive to rent than own, and this is making it even harder for people to save for their deposits. Number six, building costs. While building costs are starting to stabilise, many reports from around the world suggest that prices will continue to increase by about 5% every year for the next few years, making it more expensive to build new homes and refurbish existing ones. Number seven, and I've started to not like the use of this term, the NIMBY factor, not in my backyard. Resident groups are gaining in more influence and power in terms of planning decisions, and this trend is not slowing down. It's like existing homeowners just want everything to freeze in time the minute that they buy, and no new homes will be built in their area. Some objectors actually look for payoffs to remove their objection, and it's becoming kind of a sport or even a business for some. Number eight, developers just aren't buying sites anymore, or they're not buying as many sites as they used to. Many developers are packing up shop because the risk to reward is just no longer there. This is going to lead to less options for private buyers into futures. New homes will be built, but many of them will be built by approved housing bodies or the councils, meaning that these homes won't be available on the private market. Number nine, interest rate hikes make it more costly to borrow. You guys get this, but rising interest rates don't always result in lower house prices. The correlation has actually been proven to be quite weak. Rising interest rates also make it harder for developers to borrow and build more homes. Number 10, increasing government intervention. I've lost count of the number of rule changes there has been over the last 10 years introduced by the government, and there's no sign of this slowing down. I would say there's 200 plus rule changes that have had an impact on the market, meaning the market doesn't know which way is up or which way is down. Projects had to keep changing all the time. Investors and developers had to change their plans, sometimes midpoint or midway through a project. And this means that the market is being interfered with so much that this leads to increased delays and increased prices, because those prices and those delays are always passed on to the end user, i.e. the buyer. And while the government is pumping billions into the market through the Help to Buy scheme or the shared equity scheme or any of their plans in terms of social housing, this is also going to result in construction prices being kept very high, and they're also going to be bidding on sites as well. I could expand on all 10 of those reasons and add another 100 reasons, but it's not all doom and gloom for new housing. The government, as I said, is pumping billions into the market for affordable housing and approved housing bodies. So new homes will be built and new supply will come onto the market. Hopefully some of that new supply will free up some of the 60,000 units that are leased via HAP, which will improve some of the rental stock, and some of those properties will also come back onto the market for sale as well. There is also some hope that tax credits will be introduced in the next budget for small landlords to try keep people in the market, and perhaps even to rent out vacant properties. Any way to increase supply in the rental market is a positive, and any way to stop landlords from leaving is also a positive for the overall economy and for the market. If you are one of the people who are perhaps over 45, own your own home, there's no such thing as a housing crisis at the moment, because nearly 1 million homes are owned in Ireland mortgage free. Is just less than about 50% of the total housing number in Ireland that don't have a mortgage. That seems like an absolutely crazy number, but if you think about the age group that probably own these homes, most of them are retired or very near retired and have paid off their mortgage. For these people in this position, there is no crisis. House prices going up benefit them, less houses being built in their area benefit them too. And it also means that a large percentage of homeowners at the moment, or households, aren't impacted by interest rate hikes. And they also have no real reason to sell at the moment either. But if they do have kids, they probably will like their kids to live near them. But if there's no new homes being built in their area, there's going to be very little opportunity for their kids to live in the same area that they grew up in. Those families really need to start speaking to their TDs about inheritance tax on family homes and passing the family home to their kids. Many kids have to, or are being forced to, sell their family homes to pay the taxes. As owning a home becomes more and more of an issue, I believe people need to start trying to protect their own family home more and more, because the property is fruit of your labour and it is important to protect that. But as I said, it's not all doom and gloom. I believe we, myself included, need to take more responsibility for our own futures. If we are moving towards generation rent and long-term renting from private landlords or the state, we can't, myself included, rely on the state to provide for us into the future. Perhaps past generations were able to create wealth from buying a home, investing in defined benefit pensions, sometimes bank savings, but investment or access to investment or investing was extremely limited. I strongly believe we have way more opportunities to create wealth now more than ever before. It may not be from buying a family home or a defined benefit pension, and crypto aside, I think there is countless opportunities for people to invest in companies from all over the world, from startups to art, even commercial property, which is being kind of unlocked or will be unlocked for retail investors through tokenization into the future. One concern on this would be that there's actually probably too many opportunities to pick from, and you can get a bit blinded by the amount of opportunities that are out there. But my point is, past generations had a house and a pension fund, and investment opportunities were quite hard to get a hold of. Right now, investment opportunities are endless and access to them is even easier than ever, and the cost associated with getting access to them is lower than ever as well. I think Irish people put too much stock in building wealth through their property. If you look at Germany or the US, many of those people who build wealth do it through investing and not through property, and they actually make probably little of property. And if you were to go back and look at house prices and the SP 500 performance over the last 30, 40, 50 years, you'd actually come out on top if you were investing in the stock market over buying a house. Obviously you need somewhere to live, but assume you have a booking deposit for a property or a down payment on a property you decide not to buy, but you use that to invest into the S&P 500. You leave it there for 30, 40 years, you top it up in line with what it probably would have cost you to keep your property repaired and so on. The likelihood is the S&P will outperform historically speaking, will outperform the value of your house. Meaning, come retirement, you will have enough money to live comfortably. I'm not saying that home ownership is not a good investment. I actually think it's a great one. I'm just saying that it's not the only way to secure your future if you are in a rental generation kind of mindset, or that is your future. I think there is other opportunities to create wealth over and above buying a property, and not just create wealth, secure yourself into retirement. If fear of renting in retirement, which is a very valid fear, or at least it should be a worry, most of the age group that I'm talking about have 30, maybe even 40 years to retire, and even investing small amounts now will have a huge benefit in the long run. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. If the government has and is making a mess of the housing market and home ownership is getting harder and harder, while asking the government to build more homes, I think we should also be asking them for incentives to invest personally into long-term investments outside of our pensions, so we have the ability to afford a comfortable living standard come retirement. I'm not a financial advisor. I did work in a bank for a few years, but I'm a property economist by profession. None of this is financial advice. It's not investment advice either, but living in New York for 3 years, it did teach me one thing, taught me lots of things, but one thing that it did teach me was there are a lot more ways to create long-term wealth outside of property. And while property has its pros and cons, and it should form part of an overall wealth plan, I believe tokenization will open up more opportunities for smaller investors to get access to commercial real estate into the future. And outright ownership of property will be less important, I think, in the future. I am in favor of everyone owning their own home. Let me know what your thoughts are on this topic in the comments below. As always, show your support by hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.